What's your sugar mama story? Met a 30-year-old widow on Xbox when I was 19. She said she played Xbox to pass the day because she was financially set for life when her husband passed and wanted to make some Xbox friends. We stopped playing more and more until I couldn't keep up because my controller and headset broke. She asked for my address and after a week, I got a brand new controller and headset. I couldn't thank her enough and asked what I could do in return. To which she replied to just keep playing with her. Over the next few years, she occasionally buys me new games when they came out and even a few collector's editions if I wanted them. Eventually, we drifted apart because I couldn't find time play with my school and work schedule. I still miss her and occasionally try and find her online again but can't remember her gamer tag or Facebook. Till I should get a sugar mama. Date a MILF. Or just date older women in general. I don't have a specific story but this was my father apparently when he was young. My grandmother told me how he would always go out with women twice his age. It was such a regular thing I guess that after date she'd just go so how old is she this time? Many years later and after my mother's passing, ironically she was only 3 years older than him, he's still doing it. He's in his 50s and his lower limit is the 70s. And he ain't messin' with no broke to broke either. I was really drunk at a party. I was about to leave and I was pretty hungry. This girl I was talking to on Tinder lived like 2 streets over. I can't believe she actually did it. Semicolon. She left Pop-Tarts out on the front porch for me. My mom, who works as a massage therapist, told me her boss, 42, at her spa thought I, 19, at the time, was hot when my mom showed her pictures of me. Ended up getting an ad on Facebook from her. And she told me to come down to the downtown spa where she worked at during her lunch break. Got an hour massage. Crazy sex on the table. $50 and a Chipotle burrito. I did once visit a guy who had a sugar mama. A friend of the girl I was dating at the time. He was this average looking 20-year-old stoner kid who was living in a nice house in the city. His sugar mama was paying for him to go to community college. Ex constantly bought me food and would give me money if I wanted beer or weed. But would then leave the beer and weed knowing I would drink or smoke it all. She only ever came to my apartment for sex and would then leave when I couldn't get it up again. Her mom would drop off 3-4 bags of groceries every week. She bought me my second car ever and paid for my college classes and helped me get my life on track really. It ended pretty quick when I told her I thought I was in love with her. You weren't her main. A rebound girl I was seeing at the time offered to buy me a plane ticket to visit her in Hawaii on her vacation. I was seeing her for about 2 months. She was 10 years my senior. We worked together and there was always those certain looks throughout the year. She was going through a divorce, with well-to-do architect, and were previously bonded over depressive situations we were going through. It wasn't until I handed my resignation in and told the staff I was moving states did it kick off. She said we should go get a drink one night. Nothing happened. Then she invited me round to her place. 3 awesome kids. Anything I wanted booze-wise. Food? Great cook. Meals and drinks out too. Very in shape and we absolutely bonded very well in the bedroom too. It was almost perfect. Except for me having sneak out at the crack of dawn before the kids woke up. This continued for about 7 weeks. I had my car packed and ready to go and we spent one last night together before I moved. We said our goodbyes and I drove off. Last I've heard from her as per the arrangement her request. It could have worked out I felt. Miss ya. Went out drinking with my cousin on a Thursday night and we ended up meeting a MILF at the bar he'd hooked up with before. It's closing time and he invites me over to her place to keep the party going. I was supposed to stay at his place. So I didn't really have anywhere else to go. At the end of the night, she made me a bed in her guest room. I woke up the next morning with a terrible hangover and people are rushing around and I'm like WTF is all this noise? I emerge from the bedroom and sitting at the kitchen table is my cousin. The MILF and her 2 high school aged kids. Mind you, I'm 22 at the time and my cousin is 23. MILF packed us lunches while she made her kids lunches and sent us off with brown paper bags and Gatorades. The kids were less shocked than I was. I think they were used to it. Edit. She was divorced and lived in a massive house. Damn, you got a Gatorade and not just a bottle of water? My dad. He broke up with my mom and now lives with an 80-year-old. He's 50. She's rich and he's basically homeless. But he's handsome and looks good with her. She supplied his cocaine addiction for years. And then she also supplied him money to chase me and my mom through the courts over custody. TLDR. 80 and 50 years old. A while back I posted in a couple subreddits here for meetups. And a woman actually messaged me. We connected pretty well. And found out a job took her around the US. She also was in a poly relationship. And just liked having guy friends everywhere. So I just became another one of her boyfriends. When we started talking it was about 2-3 weeks away from my birthday and I had told her it was coming up soon. She wanted to get me something for it. But I had felt uncomfortable telling her my address. Finally she convinced me. And about a week later, she sent me an incredible care package. It was 2 brand new games. A new hoodie. Some comics. And a Funko Pop. It was a lot to spend on me even though we hadn't known each other that well. You dated a loot crate. Not exactly a sugar mama. But I have a second Tinder account with my age set to 40. In the bio I just straight up say I'm actually 23 and looking to have sex with older women. It has worked a surprising number of times with some very attractive MILFs and cougars. I had a girl give me an iMac because she liked me and we played video games together. We had never really met up until that point. She was sad my laptop was dying so she gave me her old iMac. Most expensive and nicest gift I was ever given. Felt like a sugar mama. My time has come. I met an older MILF when I was 27. She was 43. And I think it was really more of a boy toy situation. Though we were still friends. She would basically take me all around the state on her trips as a sales rep. When I had the days off from my own job. And we'd stay at hotels and just FCK half the night. Then we'd wake up. FCK again. And be on our way. It lasted for just over a year. And honestly, I was just so spoiled by her in terms of sex. She loved to FCK out in nature. And before it ended, we had FK'd in 3 national parks. We even had a thing where we'd impersonate the Count with 2 national parks. Comma. And then laugh like idiots. My friend earns really good money and works for a government organization in a poor country. So she barely needs to spend anything. She's 33 and just likes younger guys. Maybe around 21-25. She said it's because she enjoys the power aspect of it and she doesn't mind paying them or spoiling them because for her, it's a power play. Works for her. Works for me too. Where's she at? FK'd. Next morning she made me breakfast and cut my hair. I bought my husband's beer last night. Don't have one yet but this girl I recently became FWB with asked me to be her formal date in Las Vegas. And I don't have to pay for anything. She's got the flights, hotels and even booze. She told me. It's part of our FWB contract. This is happening in February. Wish me luck. He got expensive gifts all the time. Was always going to fancy restaurants. And she let him drive a luxury sedan around whenever he wanted. Plus he got to stay at her swanky apartment rent free. Cons? I don't think there were any for him. He came and went as he pleased. She wasn't particularly controlling, if anything. She was very sweet. And she was very attractive. If I could get a deal like that, I'd be foolish not to jump on it. Edit. Should add why they broke up. He crashed her Mercedes. She stopped letting him drive her car. And he cheated on her. It was a messy breakup and my friend is an asshole. I used to tutor this dumb as a rock high school girl in math and I always tried to quit because it was so frustrating and not worth the money. Her mom used to convince me to stay via a hand job. Sounds more like a PRNO than a sugar mama story. I went to a bar one time and this cougar kept ordering pitchers of beer for me. One thing led to another and I went home to her place. Woke up the following morning to find out she was an E7 and I was a E4. Fast forward to later in the relationship, she told me that she wanted to get engaged before she left for her next duty station. I agreed, so we went to a jewelry store. She picked out a ring and asked me if I wanted an engagement present too. I picked out a fancy watch and she paid for everything. 2 days later she changed her mind about the engagement and decided she wanted to be single. At least I got to keep the watch. Former teacher 10 years later. I'm a 40-year-old woman and this is my dream. Especially after reading all these stories. If I had money, this is exactly what I need. I want a friendly, casual, SZL relationship. RIP your inbox. When I was 20 I had a stint where I was unemployed. To start getting benefits I had to attend a job agency. Saw my agency contact at the local nightclub one weekend. Hooked up. Took her home to my house. Next meeting she used agency money to buy me a new suit. 2 shirts. 2 ties and about $600 in fuel cards. Basically a one night stand turned pretty profitable. Edit. I'm the sugar mama. For his birthday I took him to a music festival with his favorite lineup. Stayed a week at the Venetian in Vegas and got him an hour in a Lamborghini Huracan on a racetrack. It was fun. When I was 19 in college, a trans woman offered to pay all of my bills for the month if I let her suck my dick. I wish I was into it because that's a pretty sweet deal. I can't afford to be straight when my bank account says $7. I briefly dated a MILF and quite frankly it was great. She would expect me once a week with a fridge full of beer, homemade food and dessert and all the sex I could have. Dump her to give my ex another chance. It failed. Well, to be fair, there were other reasons. MILF got too attached and I didn't want to hurt her, but that was the main one. An ex-geisha that owned a whiskey place wanted to give me a job. The old guys I was drinking with told me that if I accept she will give me a lot of presents and money. So I will look pretty behind the bar and basically pour drinks and talk to people and sleep with her. She was probably 80. She called me almost daily after I told her I would think it over. I was looking for a job at the time. I got a lame ass but pays well teaching job instead. She got angry on the phone and hung up. Went on a date with a girl visiting from NY. Didn't see the point as I was looking for a relationship. Had a good time. Wasn't doing well at the time. So she flew me out to New York and paid for everything. So forth. She flew back a few times. Became clear she was emotionally unbalanced. Sweet girl and I wish her the best. I was sitting at the Hilton Dubai Resort and this older lady who has clearly had plastic surgery was sitting in a chair. Possibly in a thong. Soon her husband, a 20-something muscular Indian guy in speedos, shows up with a drink and a horse. So she could go riding later. Yoga studio owner, my yoga instructor had me quit my job, move in with her, and go to all her classes for almost 2 years. Sex and intimacy was great throughout. She spoiled me, traveling, shopping, concerts, gifts, and paid for everything, but my self-esteem suffered greatly. We broke up when depression hit me hard. It was kind of fun being on 2-year vacation but hard to explain the gap on my resume. Edit. Added details. Ex gave me her Netflix password 2 years ago and hasn't changed the password. God bless her. Whenever we treat each other, my bestie and I always say, thanks, Sugamama. People replying to this thread are 100% better looking than you think. There's this older lady that will buy me full handles of alcohol whenever she thinks I need more. That's about it. It's always at random times too. A friend of mine FK'd a girl. She had to go to work the next morning. So he FK'd the mom. And then they baked cookies and he drove an hour home with a PBJ and 4 cookies in a brown bag. Lol, the way you worded that. Like naturally he FK'd the mom. Back in my broke college days, a girl that liked me was a manager at McDonald's. It started out with me getting a discount and eventually turned into her bringing me free food every night when she got off work. At the same time, my current wife was a cashier at Walmart. I would go through her line and she would only scan a few of my cheaper items. I would get $200 worth of stuff for like $40. The next year she paid for a trip to Vegas together. We've been together for 23 years now. My current wife was a cashier at Walmart. The next year she paid for a trip to Vegas. I used to FCK my manager at my old job. She wasn't really a sugar mama, but I could get away with anything while at work. I'd have to open the store with her early in the morning, 4 AM. But I would be out drinking all night and just go straight to work. She would let me take 30 minutes power naps in the back room. She gave me free drugs a few times, so that was cool for a bit. Alright kids. Settle in. Semicolon. When I was but a little tween, we went with my friend over to her mom's friend's house. Apparently, we were all going to the mall together. So, we pulled up to this mansion, literally, like marble carvings of lions out front and at least a 10-car garage with several Lamborghinis outside of the garage being cleaned or whatever. We went inside and met my mom's friend, greeted us with a hug. Learned that fake boobs are hard. Then in the giant foyer area, a lone male. The 40-year-old mom friend explained that this was her new 20-something boyfriend. She was putting him through community college and had paid for this massive DJ setup for him so he could practice. Apparently, he was going to college to become a DJ. What? My friend's mom was a stripper. And both of them started dancing to his bad record scratching. We just went downstairs and played with the dogs she bred. To sum things up, he had a pretty good deal. I live in Japan and date a fair few women in their mid to late 30s. The last one bought me a Switch. Yes folks. 19 years between us. We met when her car broke down and I stopped to help her. She invited me along to her friend's house for a brunch. She took me home and seduced me. I moved in a few weeks later. That was 10 years ago. Was mechanic for 60-employee company. Dated the CEO for around 6 months. Don't think I've been that financially stable my whole life. Barely spent a penny. Waiting for Macron to post a comment. A friend of mine told me this story where an Asian woman he was seeing casually all of a sudden flew him out to whatever country she was from in the Far East. Her house was lavish. Armed guards and everything. He was about 20 and she was around the same age. He said they couldn't really speak each other's language as well. He's Mexican and American, but after sex she would make him take a shower immediately. He convinced her that he would need to see his family in person to say goodbye and stay with her. I think she made it clear she wasn't letting him go, so she bought him a ticket back to the States. He never contacted her again and stayed here. He said it was the weirdest thing he's ever experienced in a relationship. He's married with a few kids now back in his hometown. I was homeless when I was 18. And I hit up a dating site and found a deaf chick 10 years older than me. And she became very infatuated with me. I got a place to live, food, money, and POC registered Simon games from her. I cut her off physically when I got a girlfriend later in the year. But she still kept paying for my stuff. I feel genuinely awful about how much I took advantage of the situation. Edit. Once during supper. The summer I was 21, I danced at a club and then went home with a woman who was 31 at the time. She wasn't exactly a sugar mama in that she didn't have any money herself. She was a teacher and a single mom, but she knew tons of people and she got invited to some really nice parties and events. That summer was a blast. She taught me a ton about cooking. We had killer sex. She had fun slumming it with my friends. I got to be her arm candy at all kinds of parties in really nice houses. Some private rooms at clubs. Art show after parties. Things like that. We never really made it anything official. We always joked that I was her pool boy and she was my court cougar. As the school year started, we both settled into different routines and drifted apart a bit. To this day, the most amicable split I've ever had in a relationship that lasted longer than a month.